What's going on, everybody? My name is Echo Codex and welcome back to the channel. Now, the Ebony Moth fight in Solo Coliseum, or Apex Coliseum, has been out for a little bit now, and I kind of want to just make a guide showing some really good options, some good farming options, and just break down the fight a little bit. So on base you have Ebony Maw, which obviously can be really annoying with the miss and the degens that he's going to be putting on top of you. But the nodes in this fight really make it a little bit more challenging in the fact that, one, unless Ebony Maw has at least a bar of power, you're going to be taking a big chunk of damage. And number two, the main problem in this fight is cement shoes. Basically every 8 seconds you're going to be getting a charge on you. You can see the bear trap icon under lizard right there. Once you have 3 of these, you're going to be rooted. And you can remove one of these by blocking a hit. Now, anytime there's blocking a hit involved or required in the fight, that becomes really challenging in Coliseum when their attack ramps up to gargantuan scales. The other main problem in this fight comes after 5 bars have been removed from Ebony Maw, where you have to complete the objective. And the objective in this fight is a little bit different than the others, where it's not a specific action like a heavy attack or a striker that you have to do, but rather you have to place yourself somewhere on the map. There's like a little trap on the floor, and you got to run over it, kind of like the Black Widow's Totalis fight. So that can make things a little bit challenging if your champion really relies on proper spacing or some sort of aggressive play style, or if it just spawns on a little awkward place in the map and you can't really get there in time. So here we have Lizard, which is widely considered to be probably the best option for the fight, because he can put that tracking debuff on Maw whenever he does his heavy attack when Maw is not stunned. That's also going to be pausing all the debuffs on Maw, and that's going to be allowing for Maw to take a lot of damage whenever he throws his special attacks, building up that SP2 damage, and we can throw off that massive SP2. Now with Blizzard, it's also a little bit easier because you have a lot of regen from those blocked hits or any face tanking you may have to do. And you can always get those intercepts in or those easy heavy attacks with your unblockable and your unstoppable. Make sure that you have the Spider-Man 2099 relic on this guy, because that means every time you dex, you're going to get that unstoppable as long as it's not on cooldown. And I think most people have at least an Ascension 1, maybe even Ascension 2 Lizard, so Lizard is a pretty good option for this fight. But one thing that Lizard does struggle from is another node on Ebony Maw. You see the endurance passives on Maw there. Every time a debuff expires on him, he gains one of those endurance passives, and so the debuffs are going to be expiring a lot quicker on him. Now for Lizard, if you can play him really well, this shouldn't matter too much because the heavy attack is going to be pausing those debuffs, so you're not going to be really seeing any of the non-damaging debuffs expire. It's mainly just the tracking debuffs, your stuns, your strikers, because the damaging debuffs of the Rupture don't actually count towards this. Now, Lizard is also very good for this fight because he can do a lot of damage. As you kind of have been seeing in this fight, every time I'm launching a SP2, we're almost doing a full bar to Ebony Maw based on all the damage that he stored from himself by, constantly throwing those specials, because we've been pausing our ruptures on him. So with Lizard here, the general rotation that I like to go for is SP1 into SP2, massive SP2, and then take off a lot of health. But let's just jump into the fight here and see that you can see the trap on the bottom of the screen that I just had to go for. Bait the SP1. I think the SP1 is a really good time to either 1, get your blocked hit in for cement shoes, and 2, it's a very good time to try and get some space for the trap node. Go for the striker, go for a heavy attack there to pause all our charges. You can see the traps behind us. We dash back through it, bait out his SP1. We're going to be trying to pause our debuffs here if we can anytime soon. We parry heavy. As you can see there, since he was stunned, it didn't actually pause or refresh the pause, but since we're unstoppable here, we can go in, go back out. Even if he throws his SP1, go for the heavy attack, pause everything, go for this SP2. It's going to be massive. We take off a full bar there. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen under Lizard, that little sword icon. Once that builds up, that's going to be building up through Maw throwing his special attacks and taking that power sting damage. That's how we're building up our charges for our massive cash out on the SP2. And you can see to the left of that sword icon, the little black tongue icon, the little guy talking. That's Maw's icon for when he's going to be putting that falter on you. Well, if you knock him down, that's not going to be very much of a problem. But if you don't, every 20 charges, he's going to be putting a falter passive on you. And if you hit into him, you're going to be taking a ton of degen damage. So you really do want to be weaving in heavy attacks into this fight, but if that does happen to get to 100, you're not able to knock him down frequently enough, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be coming back every few seconds. That falter is going to be happening on you, regardless if you knock him down or not. So here we pause our debuffs on Ma, bait out the SP1, go back in. Now we're unstoppable here. Take a blocked hit for Cement Shoes. Go for our SP1, putting on those ruptures. Everything's paused at the moment. We go for a heavy attack. Because we're unstoppable, we can just do that. Ma goes for his SP1. We're rooted here from Cement Shoes, but that's okay because we have our SP1 ready. We move over the trap, and we can just attack in. We're unstoppable, unblockable. We got that big regen coming from Lizard's base kit. We go for the heavy attack there. Now with Lizard, the falter doesn't even matter because we're constantly having that tracking debuff on whenever we're putting that heavy attack. Paused all our debuffs here. We're looking to cash out with a big SP2. We have 93 charges on Lizard right now. Get over the trap. We're just trying to get Dex here, go unstoppable and unblockable. Go in, take a full bar and a bit off Ma there. We go for the SP1, but he SP1s. Fortunately, we're unstoppable and unblockable. We kind of get out of the sticky situation with our striker here. But you can see we have pretty good regen and recovery on Lizard here. There is a falter on us, but we have the tracking, so it's totally okay. Heavy cancel into SP1 here, finish the SP1. Get over the trap. That's another thing you do with Lizard if you're having trouble getting his debuffs paused, is parry and wait for that stun to, right as it's expiring, heavy attack into Ma. But I think the easier way is just get your unstoppable, get your unblockable, make sure Ma isn't throwing a special attack, and you can just heavy into him. Or you can just punish heavy attacks like we did here. Lizard has a really large heavy reach, so that shouldn't be too much of a concern. Here I'm rooted, but I do have my SP1, and I'm unblockable, so it's not that big a deal. Heavy attack into him, pause all our debuffs. Now you can see that his Black Tongue has reached 100, as you can see right under Lizard's icon there. So every few seconds he is going to be putting the falter on us, but that's totally fine as long as we have that tracking debuff on him. Heavy attack here to pause all our debuffs. We're at 73 charges, so we should be trying to pretty soon go for a cash out here. Maybe one more SP1 if we can get it in. Pause the debuffs. Falter's coming on, but at this point it's just willpower healing as long as we got that tracking debuff on. We're at our SP2 now. Go for our SP2 with 84 charges. Knock off, about 80% of a bar on Ma there. Still really solid. Collective damage coming in clutch. Go for a full 5-hit combo. He's now at 12 bars, so we're doing pretty solid in this fight overall. Go for an SP1 here. Now my Lizard, I should mention, is only rank 3 Ascension level 1. So if you do have an Ascension level 2 or rank 4 or even a rank 5, he's going to be doing a lot of damage in this fight. I can easily see him getting up to 20 bars here. Go in for a full combo. Try and heavy counter there, but we mistime it. Take a full combo to the face. And, obviously you just got to show off Lizard's regen capacity. We're unblockable and unstoppable, so we're going to go in for an SP2 there, take off a full bar. We're at 13 bars now. Going for the striker to get us out of that route. And now we're healing for a pretty good amount, like 1700 per tick. We're unstoppable, unblockable for a lot of this fight. Pause during the Ma's special attacks, by the way. Ma has 8 endurance passives on him, so our debuffs are really short, but as long as we can keep that pause on, we should be okay. Heavy cancel to SP1. Try and go for another SP1, but unfortunately we take an SP1 to the face and die. Now our next option here isn't necessarily the best for this fight, but he is really, really good for farming this fight, and that is Stealth Suit Spider-Man. Because when Stealthy has a slow debuff on his opponent, he actually can't miss, so he bypasses the falter as well. The really tricky thing with Stealth Suit Spider-Man is that you gotta make sure that you're maintaining that slow debuff, because if it falls off and Ma starts to gain those endurance passives, this slow is going to be lasting for a really short amount of time, and then you will be able to miss if that slow debuff is not on. So That's one of the main things in this fight, is you gotta rush up to that SP2 like we just did, put on the long slow, and then refresh that constantly with that 4th light attack, and refresh your charges with the SP3. But besides that, since we have the Fury on, we want to go for our SP1 to get the humongous crit buff, and then we're just going to be doing a ton of damage. Again, he's not necessarily the best for longevity in this fight, he's just really, really good at farming this fight because he can put out damage so quickly and so much. The main thing to worry about with Stealthy is keeping that, you know, slow debuff up. If you get 1 or 2 endurance passives like we're about to do right here, that's okay. But once we start getting in the range of 3 to 4 endurance passives, the timing on this fight becomes really, really tricky. I think in this fight we get somewhere close to around 8 bars, so he's definitely not the greatest option here. He's just very, very fast, and he puts out a lot of damage really quick. So here we're already up to 2 endurance passives. We're going to be trying to keep that capped now at just these 2. We want to start going for our SP2 to put on the really long slow debuff. We won't be able to miss at that point. You can see I'm trying to weave in those heavy attacks as well to try and knock Maw down so that he doesn't build up his Black Tongue charges. But we're already at 30 Black Tongue charges. We do get the knockdown here, so that is going to be paused for a bit while his focus is broken. Go for the heavy attack, knock him down again. Go for the crit buff here. And one thing about Stealthy is when you dash back, you pause the passives that he has on himself. Take an SP1 to the face, of course. He's pausing the passives when he dashes back, so that gives you a lot of longevity and time on your passives, so you're not really too worried about them. The main thing is that slow debuff again. Go for the striker here, knock him down to stop the charges from building up. We're at 2 cement charges, so we're going to have to be taking a blocked hit pretty soon here. We get rooted, don't take the block hit. That is totally another option. Another option is if you get the root on you, if you have a special attack ready to go, you can totally ignore the root, throw your special attack. You can see, by the way, these huge, big yellow numbers that we're doing with Stealthy here. This failed because we have that slow debuff on, and now the name of the game is keeping that slow debuff on. Our 4th light attack, we have 3 charges active. We're just going to be building up to our SP3, making sure that that slow debuff doesn't fall off. I generally recommend if the slow debuff has around 30 to 25% remaining, you want to go for that 4th light hit. You do have to manage the charges though, because you only have 5 of them per SP3, and you do want to be cycling these SP3s to kind of refresh your charges and make sure that you're able to keep that slow on him. That takes away a lot of the pain points in this fight. We're about to pass 5 bars here and add a new level of complexity with the pinpoint, the little trap that we have to run over. So here are the pinpoints to the left of us. We go there during his special attack. We're going to be using up our last charge here. Just refresh it because we're going to be going for our SP3 soon and refreshing our charges. We're rooted here. Take some block hits. Go for a few attacks there, go over the pinpoint, and then go for our SP3. The Maw is already at 5 bars, so we're doing pretty well so far. Go for his SP1. Our crit passive is getting kind of low, so we do want to be shooting for an SP1 kind of soon. We're faltered, but that's totally okay. We have that slow on us, so we're not worried. We're intercept there with the SP1. We've got our crit passive. There's a pinpoint to our left. We're going to have to get over that pretty soon. And you can see there what I'm talking about with the spacing. It was a little bit too far to the left of us for us to get there during his SP1, so we're going to have to be slowing down the pace of this fight, which you don't really want to do with Stealthy. And, you know, that honestly causes us to take those hits to the face there. We got 2 cement charges on us. We do want to be taking a blocked hit pretty soon here. We're rooted. We have our SP1 though. We take some block hits. And that block damage is starting to really add up, especially with Stealthy, who is famous for his lack of block penetration. Or his block proficiency, should I say. Just trying to get that pinpoint there. Slow debuff's about to expire, so we do want to go in and refresh our slow there. We're about to get rooted. If we don't take a block hit soon, we do have our special attacks ready though. We go for a striker to stall out the root. Go over the pinpoint. Intercept there. We are faltered. But that's okay. You see the miss failed because we have the slow debuff on. Go for our SP3 to refresh everything there. And unfortunately we pushed him to his SP2, so we're going to be taking a huge chunk of block damage there and dying. But that was only about 5 minutes, and we did 8 bars to the Maw, so it's just a farming tactic. But now we have my favorite option for this fight, which is Spider-Woman. Now, Spider-Woman does have a lot of interesting utility for this fight. She does apply a lot of non-damaging debuffs, so you are going to be building up those endurance passives on Maw pretty quickly. However, when she applies her debuffs, they have a long enough time frame that if you're going for that SP2, SP1 rotation, you're still getting that power sting damage, and that huge power sting damage is enough to do a lot of damage to the Maw. Now, you want to leave in those heavy attacks, so you don't necessarily have a way to counter miss all that well, but that's totally okay with Spider-Woman and the playstyle that I have going on here. So I go for the SP2 heavy attack after the SP1. Now we want to go for our SP1 with him having a bar of power here and just do a ton of power sting damage. Yeah, you see there with the retributions and the severe power stings, Spider-Woman is doing a ton of damage. She also has insane heavy reach, as you saw there, so it is, you know, pretty simple to get Maw knocked down, and that's really the main way that I try and deal with the falter, is just not let him build up those black tongue charges here with Spider-Woman. Keep going for those heavy attacks. You can see Spider-Woman's doing a lot of damage. You want to go for maybe one more SP1 while that Retribution is active. Now he goes for his SP1, tanks it, or does a ton of damage to himself. And one maybe lesser known thing about Spider-Woman is that if that Retribution passive from her SP2, which makes them take more damage from the power stings, is active and she misses for whatever reason, that passive actually refreshes itself. So I think a few times in this fight I do utilize that utility that does cause us to take a bit of degen damage, so it is advisable to only really use that in the beginning of the fight when his attack rating isn't that high. But I'll try and point that out when I do that. But if I miss it for whatever reason, know that she does have that utility in her kit. So you want to build up just under 3 bars of power there. Go for that SP2, put the Retribution passive on, and just cycle SP1s as many times as possible. Mix in those heavy attacks if you can, and take in those parries to try and remove the cement charges, and just get him to throw as many SP1s as possible. We've already pushed him to 5 bars here, and yeah, we are just going to be cycling those SP1s, leaving in our striker. You do want to have the Ant-Man striker on her to do a lot more power sting damage and put that extra power sting on from the striker itself. So we're going to go for another heavy attack here. We're rooted, unfortunately, but that's okay. He throws a special attack here, does a little bit of damage to himself. Maybe we can get another SP1 on while he has that Retribution, but we were just a little bit shy there. He didn't have enough power for an SP1, unfortunately. Throws a SP1. We try and make sure that we're landing on those pinpoints as often as we can during his special attacks. Go back there. We're approaching falter, so we are faltered here. We don't want to land our attacks in. We don't even have the Retribution to refresh itself. We send ourselves over the pinpoint with our special attack, put that Retribution passive on, and now it's just time to cycle SP1s. No real need to take the degen damage there and refresh the Retribution because we were only at like 75% already, so we don't want to really be tanking that much damage unless we really need that refresh. Just putting in a few more heavy attacks here. Gonna try and go for an SP1 here. Hopefully he throws his SP1. You really don't want to put Maw to his SP2, especially when he's, you know, beyond 5-6 bars, because that is going to be a lot of damage to the block, unless you can dex it perfectly, in which case go ahead, push him to SP2, but I certainly cannot. So I would advise just sticking with the SP1s. You can also parry the SP1s pretty nicely for those removal of the cement charges. Go for a few hits there. Go for our SP2, put that Retribution passive on. You can see he's already at 9 bars. We are faltered, but that falls off by the time he's done, and we heavy attack there. Knock him down. He's at 67 charges of his Black Tongue, so he hasn't even reached 100 yet. We have 10 power stings on him. We want to get him to throw it when he has the Retribution on. Heavy counter there. We're somehow able to get the pinpoint by our pinky toe. Should be able to get another SP1 in here. Very nice. And one other thing about Spider-Woman that makes her really good for this is she's immune to, you know, a lot of forms of power steal and neutralize. So if you get hit by the heavy attack, she shouldn't be losing any power on that. Take a full 5-hit combo to the face there, of course. Counter with our SP1, try and get some adrenaline healing. Try to bait out an SP1 from him there. That is another thing that you can do to complete the prompts, is have him run over it if it's behind him, but generally he's going to be in his corner, so it's not going to be spawning behind him. But if you're in the middle of the arena for whatever reason, and the pinpoint, the trap is basically behind him, he can walk over the trap and complete the prompt for you. And we're already at 12 bars there. You can see he's at 20 stacks of his endurance, so these debuffs are falling off pretty quickly. He's at his SP2. We're just going to have to block this. It's a huge chunk of block damage for us. Try and go for a heavy counter there, but unfortunately we do not get it. We SP1 here, get some adrenaline healing, get a pretty much, you know, 70% of a bar with that. Push him over the pinpoint. Still got that Retribution active. Striker into a heavy attack. Accidentally push him to an SP2. The SP1 to maybe get some damage off of this. It's going to be a lot of block damage here. But we were able to dodge the last hit, fortunately, so we are on death's doorstep right now. Falter, trying to get some willpower healing off that. Definitely don't want to be trying to refresh our Retributions right now because that degen will just kill us. Go for the SP1. He does. That was a little tricky right there. Trying to build up to our SP2 here. Maybe one more cycle we have left in us. Can maybe gain enough power. Go for an SP1. Unfortunately, we did not have enough power for our SP2 rotation there. But we heavy attack, knock him down. We're just going to bait out this SP1. He does a huge chunk of damage to himself. We're approaching our falter, so we're just going to be sitting back and healing up. Completing the prompt there. Heavy attack, knock him down. Going in for a combo. Bang out his SP1. We are faltered, so we're just going to be sitting back a little bit. Heavy attack him here. Go in and SP2. Just shy of 2 bars of power for him. Bait out his SP1. We are faltered, so we don't want to go in. We block those, get rid of the cement charges. Heavy attack, knock him down. Complete the prompt there. I was a little bit lucky. Heavy attack, knock him down. Just trying to bait out this SP1. If we can get one more SP1 in, but we are getting faltered here, so we show a little bit of restraint. Parrying these attacks. Go for an SP1. Hopefully he throws his SP1, takes a big chunk of damage. We're at 16 bars now. We heavy attack. Complete the prompt there. Get a little bit more damage with his SP1. Go for the striker intercept there. Heavy attack, knock him down. Unfortunately, we just pushed him to 2 bars of power. The power gain is a little bit insane there. Maybe we can get an SP1 off? No, so we just got to try and full dex it here, but unfortunately we end up failing and dying out. But that was 16 bars, a really, really solid run. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you learned how to fight them all a little bit better and your runs went amazing. You found some pretty good options, maybe some good farming options. And if you did, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the good buttons, and I will see you in the next one. you.